Hello, human beings. It's Jaffe. I want to do this video. It's not a political video. I'm trying to get away from that, at least on the channel. But I'm seeing so many people struggling with what I'm struggling with as it relates to the news in general, and specifically what's happening in Israel and Palestine, that I did want to offer up something that I've been using the last 4 or 5 days. This is not a ad for Ground News or the Ground News app or whatever they call it. I would be more than happy to show for their company on my stream if they wanted, because I think it's fantastic. But I have been very frustrated because everywhere you turn, people have different takes on what's happening and why it's happening and blah, blah, blah. So I came across this on as a YouTuber I watched called Second Thought, and at the end, he was advertising it. And he's a very socialist fella, and he's like, I don't even agree with all of the stuff that Grounded does, but it's a really good service on the whole. So I just want to tell you what this is, and I want to show you as it relates to this baby beheading story, which is obviously going around the news. If it bleeds, it leads, and it may very well be horrifically true. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the big story is there was a kibbutz in Israel, and Hamas terrorists came in, slaughtered the shit out of people, and left some awful atrocities is the story, and I'm sure the majority of it is accurate, if not all of it, which is they came in, they killed a lot of people, including children. Horrible. This is not about that. Of course it's horrible. This is the little bit that a lot of people are talking about. Let me just play this 8-second clip.
What they've witnessed.
This is the kibbutz. She's talking about soldiers that she spoke with that witnessed the atrocities.
As they've been walking through these different houses, these different communities, babies, their heads cut off. That's what they said. Gunned down, families, complete.
Okay, so that's kind of the clip, blah, blah, blah. I mean, not blah, 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 like it doesn't matter. It's horrific. But that's kind of the clip. And it's obviously making the news pretty much everywhere, right? And then I saw Adam Sessler tweet about it, and I saw a number of people saying, oh, that's been debunked. And I'm just like, okay, I don't fucking know what to believe anymore. Obviously, I know Hamas is horrible. I know the Palestinian people are suffering mightily, and the ones that don't want to just wipe out Jewish people, I hope they can get their own state and live in peace. And there are hardliners in the Israeli government that I think are horrible, and there are a lot of Israelis who are like, look, just stop trying to sort of genocide us and leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. But then there's some assholes in Israel who want more and more and more and more. So, right, I got off topic. I'm sorry. But the point is, I don't really have an opinion on that. But if you go, I was like going, okay, I don't know what to believe when it comes to like just this one story. So I go to Grounded. I just want to show you what this is. Grounded basically aggregates a bunch of news. I think there's like 50,000 sources. And they use a number of outside parties to decide if these are factual, mixed factual, highly factual sources, if they are center, left, right, far left, blah, blah, blah. And then they basically kind of lay out the news for you. And it is so fascinating. And it as it relates, just let's take this story right here, right? So if you go to the baby beheading story, this ultimately, they covered all the stories. And you've got a high factuality story that leans left. And it's the only story saying, where does this figure come from? A baby's killed. It seems to come from a single source, and it has not been formalized, aka it hasn't been verified. So it's not to say that this isn't accurate, but it is to say that this report is a reporter giving secondhand information from just some soldiers she talked to, and it hasn't been verified. Okay, well, that's the story, maybe. I guarantee you if it was presented that way, it probably wouldn't have all this coverage that it's getting. But then what's fascinating about this, and this is not necessarily about the baby story, but in general, if you look at, they have this wonderful section on ground.news called Blind Spot, and it tells you the stories that the left and right are ignoring. And it's really fascinating to look at it at a 30,000 foot view, and you start to sort of see a meta narrative, and you suddenly start to get it. you suddenly start to get why, even though intellectually you've always gotten it, when you see it laid out like this, you get why we're so divided. Because if you choose what you read and what you read benefits or verifies what you already think, you're missing a lot on both sides. So look at this. Let's go after. They're all guilty. So if we look at the Israeli stuff, right? The only story, if you look at a lot of these stories, like it's clear there's a right bias in media for pro-Israel. You've got a lot of these stories like Netanyahu saying we have to go in. Lindsey Graham wants to attack Iran. You've got where else? The Biden White House is doing stupid shit while there's a war in Israel. Blah blah blah. Biden administration may have lost track. Now here's one: Biden administration may have lost track of millions crossing the southern border. 93% on the right covered it. Only 7% on the left covered it. And if you click on it, some of it's bullshit, like Breitbart and all that. But some of these people who are reporting it, have high factuality, even though they lean left, right? But if you go look on which is great. It's not great, it's terrible, but it's great that you can go, okay, maybe there's a real story here and it's worth looking into. And if you go over on the right, there's a bias for, not bias for Hamas, but bias sort of for the Palestinians, of course. But they try to walk a different kind of line than the right news sources. So you've got nobody on the right is covering an Israeli airstrike that killed a refugee Gaza family. No one on the right is covering zero. Climate change crisis costing $16 million an hour in extreme weather damage, study estimates. Nobody covered it on the right. Microplastics detected in clouds hanging atop 2 Japanese mountains. Again, back to sort of pollution, climate crisis. 14% on the right. That was it. Everybody else was covering it center and left, right? You really start to get this awareness of why some people think what they do, because if all you're watching is one news source, and this is even better about this fucking thing. Look what they do. So then you can go to if you're only watching one news source, you know that it's kind of, you start to see that you're going to get not really the facts, if that's what you actually care about, right? Ex-CIA director suggests Tuberville from Alabama, senator, be removed from the human race, right? Well, the right covered the shit out of this. The left didn't cover it at all. I believe that's correct. Now, here's what's interesting about the story. Yeah, right was all over it. Nobody on the left covered it, right? But if you actually follow the story and read it, he wasn't literally saying, let's execute this guy. It was clear if you read his tweet, he was saying, this guy doesn't even belong in the human race. Forget the military or forget the Congress. This guy's a nightmare. And it was probably poorly worded, but it's very clear he didn't mean that. And you've got some of these headlines saying, the ex-CIA chief suggests the senator be assassinated. And I know, you turn on the goddamn talk radio tomorrow, and you're going to have all these fucking right-wing guys saying, this is insane. The Democrats want to assassinate a senator just because they disagree with him. And we know that that's not true. But if you don't do a little fact checking, and this helps you do fact checking fast, you get bamboozled very, very, very quickly, is what I'll say. So this is called Ground. It's not Grounded. I don't know. It's ground.news is what it's called. And I have it on my iPhone. They're giving a 7-day free trial for their premium account. And then if you sign up for that and don't cancel it, you get a year of this for $30. And there's a bunch of different plans. Again, I'm not shilling it. I'd be more than happy to shill it because I love it. And I'm only bringing it to your attention because I think given where we're at and given how many people seem to be like me right now, struggling to really figure this shit out, it's the best tool that I've found. Oh, one more thing. You can really dive deep with this shit. So let's say you go to a right-wing paper that is covered I'm trying to find a high factuality one, but we know Breitbart, Ohio Star, fine. So they're right wing, mixed factuality. You can go there. You can read the story, of course, but you can also click here, and you can. There's somewhere where you can get a sense of. Let me see who owns it. Here we go. Okay, so information about it. How old is it? They tell you. I'm trying to find factuality ratings. There's a point where they tell you who owns it, and then what the individual's name is, who owns the paper, or the news source, and then what you can look up what they've donated to and what their agendas are outside of just having a news source that they own. So let me see if this one has one. It seems the smaller papers don't list it. Let's list some of the. Let's look at some of the bigger ones, just so I can show you what I'm talking about. It's really cool. The Blaze has to have something. That's a pretty big thing. They lean right. Independent Blaze Media. Okay. No, I keep clicking the wrong fucking thing, fellas. All right, here you go. Click the Blaze. This is easier to get to on the app. Oh, ownership. Learn more about ownership categories, right? So then you can go in here and you can see if it's a media conglomerate, if it's a wealthy private investor. So like I was reading one of these today and I looked up this guy who owns it, Leon Cooperman, who is worth $3 billion, and he gives a lot of money to Republicans, and he owns one of these papers. And I'm not saying that means that you shouldn't trust that paper for anything other than right-wing reporting, but it is interesting that if you really want to dive deep, it lets you do that. So this video is longer than it should have been. I don't mean to be political on this channel. I did want to bring it to your attention because I think it's whatever side of the fence. Hopefully you're on no fence at all. You're just trying to be a good person and be nice people and do the right thing. Wherever you fall, this is irrelevant. The tool is what matters. Because I think the more obviously we know what's a fact and what is being presented as a fact that may not be a fact, like these babies, the better off we're all going to be. Because you got to admit, if we actually were looking at what was factual versus what was inflammatory, we would have a lot less hatred and anger and sadness and violence in this fucking world. So give it a look. I think it's ground.com. All right.